All right, Mech Command, what makes for a good ranged support mech? That's what we're going to explore in this vlog. And this was building a little bit on some recent rifleman discussion. Now, I regularly play a rifleman. It's got that old school feel. I really like how the machine looks, but admittedly, it has multiple problems. Weapons that run hot, not enough heat sinks, not enough armor for the role it's expected in. It's a little bit challenging, heavy to heavy. And this is not a criticism on the rifleman. I mean, it does have some good points, but we need to be aware of it. And I've pushed up the rifleman vlog to my channel here. But just to kind of frame the question, it's one thing to have a mech like the rifleman and bully lights and mediums. Absolutely. That's like a bully mech. That's a vlog in itself, bully mechs. But as soon as you go up against, that's where your weight class goes against one or two lower, where those weight classes just really don't have competition for it. But as soon as we jump into the heavies, you know, rifleman's got to be careful. Rifleman, not that we ever want to go solo, rifleman needs to be part of a team, needs to be part of that lance and how it operates. But this kind of led into the question of a support mech, a good support mech. That's what we're going to take a look at. The support mech that I utilize, now, of course, battle value, lance composition, but I tend to run in two ways, and I'll frame this, and then, of course, we'll open up to the comments. The Blackjack and the Jaeger mech. I view a support mech as the primary weapons are geared towards long range. Long range that as soon as I'm in range, as soon as there's enough hexes, I'm going to start firing. Maybe it's a target of opportunity, like you're zipping a warrior across, and this is my chance to nail it, even if it's small. This could be just you're running a medium mech to get into position. I'll blast it. It could be we're advancing. A lance is advancing, and I'm advancing. And look, before we even do the modifiers, I need like 10s and 12s. I'll take the shot. So I view a support mech as long-range reach, and as soon as it's in range, it's going to start shooting. It needs to have the ability to support, meaning to constantly be able to fire. Because you could look and say, well, okay, Fritz, what about like a Marauder or a Warhammer? It can and does support. You've got those two PPCs, but it's not necessarily firing every single turn. But if I have a high volume autocannon or dual autocannon mech, just to be able to fire every turn, get some dice down on the table. Again, target of opportunity or softening things up. The reason why I say autocannon, now let's put LRMs aside because I do play archers, I do play longbows. Missile boats can be support, but they're a little bit different, in my opinion, from that type of ranged mech. There is a line, there is a possible distinction. With missile boats, you have minimums. You come up against that type of tax if you're firing closer. Also, given the tonnage, the weight, the ammunition, in some instances, the armor is a lot less. Now, yes, you have more of a spread. Yes, you have indirect fire. I'm not saying they don't have value. That's kind of a separate tactica. They need to be off somewhere. A support mech sits in a lance or a battle group, and it's just always active. On the way in, I'm firing. If I have to redeploy, I'm firing. I'm in the action. When I get close, I'm firing. Just constant firepower. Autocannons are good because they're cheap. They've got enough ammo. The range is good, and you can just be able to fire. Second to that, I would like some sort of backup secondary weapon. In the case of the rifleman and both the Blackjack, you've got a brace of lasers that you can utilize. The challenge with these mechs, though, is that I want to be in a position tactically where as the lance moves in, they kind of hang back a little bit because I want to get the largest field of fire. I want to see where I need to add some dice. So essentially, I view them as dice adders, meaning if my lance and my combined arms are engaging and we're doing some damage, we're going back and forth. If the lance is across a front fighting and all of a sudden one of the opposing mechs opens up to internals, right torso, and there's something nice in there, then I want to be back a little bit in that firing arc with my support mech to try and nail that, right? To try and hit that spot and confirm and, well, cause that crit. We'll roll for confirm and we'll roll for location. But the challenge here, of course, is, autocannons could be a little bit underwhelming in damage. You do have ammo, which means two things. You're vulnerable to internals yourself. You could possibly run out of ammo based on the mission. I find that rarely happens, or it's not so much of a concern. Obviously, if it's a campaign or if it's a linked mission where there might not be a resupply, yes, then you get into the advantage of pure energy boats versus ammo boats versus mixed boats from that perspective. But if it's a kind of a one-off game where we're playing, then usually by the time I'm running low or out of ammo, if that, the game is kind of decided where we're going. Most support mechs are going to be able to fire that and dedicate that. Jaeger mech, another great mech, a little bit underwhelmed in terms of the armor, but a solid support mech. Again, though, the challenge here is with these support mechs, potentially they could run hot with the rifleman as soon as you factor in the other weapons on it. And armor is often not the best. So I don't, in class, I don't want to get up there and be in the middle of things, but I need to get up there and be enough laying that support. But I define a support mech as usually autocannon based, although it could be energy based, where it has the ability for multiple weapons, at least the duality of two, to fire every single turn. As soon as we're in range, I'm firing every single turn. Targets of opportunity, targets that present itself, targets that I need to weaken, targets that other units have opened up to internals and I want to add some dice to it, just supporting in that manner and that capacity.